The X-Zone radio and TV show is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X-Zone radio and TV show or in any manner endorsed by Rob McConnell, Relmar McConnell Media Company, Talkstar Radio Network, its affiliated stations, or employees.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
No matter what you are, I will always be with you. Doesn't matter what you do, girl. Ooh, girl, I'm with you. No matter what you do, I will always be around. Won't you tell me what you found, girl? Ooh, girl, I want you.
And welcome back to the X Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell. We're coming to you live and around the world from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the Talkstar Radio Network. Toll free 1-877-528-8255. That's toll free throughout the U.S., Canada, Alaska, and Hawaii. If you'd like to contact us here at the X Zone, our toll free number is 1-800-610-7035. You can always send an email to xzone@talkstarradio.com, on MSN Messenger, talkstarradio@hotmail.com, and our websites, www.xzoneradio.com and www.xzonetv.com. My guests this hour are Dr. J.J. Hurtak and Dr. Desirée Hurtak. First of all, Dr. J.J. Hurtak is a futurist, social scientist, and author of many books, including the Book of Knowledge, The Keys of Enoch, translated into over 15 languages. His most recent book is entitled The End of Suffering, which he co-authored with Russell Targ. He is joined by his wife, Dr. Desirée Hurtak, who co-authored with him the Citus Sophia text and commentary, an ancient Coptic text, as well as additional writings. They are the founders of the Academy for Future Science, an international organization that works to bring an understanding of the science and consciousness to the multi-universe in which we live. To this end, they have created numerous musical CDs and DVDs, Awakenings, the Consciousness of Humanity. They have won 14 International Film Festival Awards for their graphic films and animations on consciousness explorations entitled Merkabah in 1997, Initiation in 2002, and The Light Body in 2004. The Hurtaks have also worked closely with indigenous people throughout the world, including those of the Zulu shaman Credo Mutwa and other Indians in Brazil. They have explored most of the unique archaeological sites around this planet, including the underwater structures off of Japan, and have used computer equipment to explore the Mayan temples of the Yucatan and ancient pyramids of Giza in Egypt. They were also instrumental in the finding of the tomb of Osiris on the Giza Plateau. And to you, Dr. J.J. Hurtak and Dr. Desirée Hurtak, welcome back to the X Zone. Long time no talk, and I trust everything is fine with you?
Yes, we're great to be back in touch with you. We just got back from literally the Antarctic ice sheet at the South Pole and have some very interesting details to share with you, so carry on.
It's going to be a very interesting hour, to say the very least. Doctor, we must take a commercial break. We'll be back in 2 minutes. After all, this is the X Zone, a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until 2 a.m. Eastern. Then the show is repeated in its entirety from 2 a.m. until 6 a.m. 1-877-528-8255 is our toll-free number at Talkstar. If you'd like to give us a call here in our studios to chat with either myself, a producer, or any of our news team during regular business hours, 1-800 1-800-610-7035. That's 1-800-610-7035. And email xzone@talkstarradio.com. Still to come on tonight's show, we are going to be talking with the Hurtaks about 2012. And isn't it funny that there's a new movie coming out called 2012? A lot of people are looking towards 2012 as the end of time as we know it. Is it going to be the end of the world, or is it just another spiritual ending with a new spiritual beginning? We're going to be talking to Dr. J.J. Hurtak and Dr. Desiree Hurtak when we come back from this commercial break right here on Talkstar. If you'd like to visit their websites, www.keysofenoch.org. That's KEYSOFENOCH.org, and futurescience.org. I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break as we continue live and around the world on the Talkstar Radio Network from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. We'll be back in 2. Don't go away.
No matter what you are, I will always be with you. Doesn't matter what you do, girl. Ooh, girl, I'm with you. No matter what Don't give up on us, baby. Don't make the wrong seem right. The future isn't just one night. It's written in the moonlight, painted on the stars. We can't change ours. Don't give up on us, baby.
And welcome back, everyone. 1-877-528-8255 is toll free. Email xzone@talkstarradio.com and our websites, www.xzoneradio.com and xzonetv.com. Tell me, Dr. Hurtak, what have you seen in your recent travels that tell you the planet is going through some major changes?
Well, I've been privileged to be down at the end of the small country of Chile near the Antarctic ice fields. These are massive areas, connected with the highest continent in the world, Antarctica. And American scientists in recent months have put out some projections that if the temperature rises by 5 degrees Celsius, 9 degrees Fahrenheit by the end of the century, it's still a long ways away, but not that far, that the whole ice sheet, the Western Arctic ice sheet, could collapse and trigger the rise of the ocean by something on the order of 5 meters or something of the order of 10 feet plus. This is something that just is staggering, and you have to factor this in with the commentary that former Vice President Al Gore has been giving as he's touring the world, and he's raising consciousness about the serious changes just right around the corner. So we, Desiree and I, had the opportunity as invited guests to go down to the country of Chile, speaking at the university, and then taking a tour to the ice sheet itself to see this massive runoff.
Right, Rob. We were there with as an independent team, but some of the people had been there 10 years before, and they were really shocked with what they saw. But simultaneously, NASA actually had flown down there. They were doing a very large expedition from Point Arenas, where we were, and then south from there. And they're looking at things. There's a glacier called the Pine Island Glacier, which used to move very, very slowly, and now it's 20 times faster down there, and it's getting thin. And at the same time, I don't know if your viewers had watched it, the BBC actually had come out with some notices that the Catlin Arctic Survey, which is, of course, the North Pole, has saying that in 10 years you're going to be able to have, boat traffic in the summertime, and in 20 years they expect, it used to be like 40 years, 50 years, they expected to almost be ice-free in the summer. But the Catlin Arctic Survey, which just was finished, said in 20 years you will be able to have ice-free summers up there. So things are changing so quickly. I don't know if your audience knows why these are changing. They think because there's these cracks in the ice because of the melting going on, and then there's this lubrication that happens between the underneath part of the ice and the rock, and it just slides the whole thing off. So
I think if our radio audience can think of what is called in the pastry department as a Napoleon, which is a multi-stacked dessert made by French chefs with the chocolate and the sweet layers being stacked on one another, what happens is the water forms a pool, a moulin as it's called, below, and that acts as a lubricant. So the runoff is taking place in some parts 5 times as fast, and other times
20 times, yeah.
20 times as fast, which means the mathematical models that we had talked about many years ago in our book, The Keys of Enoch, literally are being directly fulfilled. We're seeing things that we would not have entertained 20 or 30 years ago unless you went to future science.
Tell me, what is the cause of this Arctic melt and Arctic melting?
Well, of course, right now they're doing this big conference called the Copenhagen Conference. We're connected somewhat with the United Nations in terms of sustainable development, and they're trying to figure out what they can do. And they're looking, of course, at changing fossil fuels, and we're all for that. We think it's a major importance for this. We don't think it's the only cause, which is the sad thing, although we need to stop the fossil fuels. I want to say that very clearly. But it seems that certain things are taking place from the sun, although it's been very minimal right now. But when the sun is minimal, this is very interesting. There seems to be more cosmic rays coming in. I don't know if you saw some of that information that came out recently, even from Scientific American, that when the solar energy is down like it has been the last few years, you get more and more cosmic rays bombarding the planet and more radiation. So it seems to be much more than just the local. And the reason why we say that is because we've also looked at some of the artifacts on Mars. And as you know, even NASA has seen some melting of certain areas in the glacier areas or in the...
And also the evidence in previous millennia that there have been massive water runoffs triggering geological features that are very unique to Mars. And to further answer your question, it's been the warming of the ocean, things that have been happening on the floor of the ocean suggesting that we're in for a whole round of new eruptions like we're having in the area of Indonesia. David Pollard of the State University of Pennsylvania and others, like Robert DiCanto at the University of Massachusetts, think it's the ocean warming up and other factors. And so all of this is requiring world experts to put their thinking head caps on and wonder why things are moving so quickly.
Yeah, if I can just add, we talked about the Pine Island Glacier down there in the Antarctic, and there is an underwater volcano that is somewhat erupting underneath, and they feel that this is part of the melting in that area. So for the Pine Island Glacier, some of it is the underwater volcano taking place.
But we were privileged to be on a small boat. We went out there, we took pictures, and we saw the massive runoffs and also the collapsing on the glacier itself. It's quite a spectacular event to be there and seeing the wonderful aquamarine, dark blue colors of the glacier, and then realizing that millions of years of information is just being detached very, very quickly with a collapsing sound that's most spectacular. It's a wondrous, but it's also an awesome feeling to see all of these things taking place so quickly. And it's never happened before in recorded times that we've been witnesses to see the retreats of the ice packs, the melting of the glaciers, all of this coming so quickly.
So tell me, do you think that we're in for some very rough times based on the research that you've done on the events that are taking place, global warming and so on?
Certainly, Rob, we are not so much, but the indigenous people who require the fresh water supply from the glaciers in the mountains of the Andes, in the area of East Africa, Kilimanjaro, and the little principalities and kingdoms of Nepal, Bhutan, and all of those little areas in the Himalayas that require this fresh water supply are going to realize, as we will soon, that water is a very precious commodity, 24% of the world population. is an area that really lacks fresh water needed, and so you're going to have massive relocation of populations. And of course, we hope here in the West, where our experts are looking for new ways of desalinization and water purification, the impact will not be so severe that it's going to hit all of us economically.
What events are there, or what evidence is there that these similar changes have happened before in history?
Well, that's part of the research we were also doing. Normally in the New World, we'll say North America, South America, people believe that they first came here, or the first civilizations or people crossed the Bering Straits about 11,000, 12,000 years ago. And initially that was called the Clovis, and then they found Kennewick Man over towards Oregon.
Right.
But we're looking at evidences down in South America, such as Monteverde and another site, Pedro Ferrada, that's placing man in South America, not even North America, but South America, about 35 to 50,000 years ago, which means people have been around, but civilizations perhaps did not last. And so you have to question why that's true. I know Dr. Hurtak was also in the area of Yanaguni, Japan, and that shows this whole underwater structure, that a huge amount of the land right outside of off the coast had sunken. And now when you talk to people at the Scripps Institute, you'll find that the water levels probably changed as much as 50 meters, that's like 150 feet, about 14,000 years ago. And if people never thought that there was really civilization, so it didn't make any difference. But now we're finding out there were civilizations, people who had been wiped out, and probably the legends between Atlantis and Lemuria all relate to that.
So we're finding that there were at one time along the coast of the Pacific, and certainly along the Atlantic, land-ocean civilizations that were very advanced. They had, as I just said, platforms and step pyramids and temples that were really on the oceanic frontier that simply fell into the ocean or were submerged by oceanic dynamics. And we're now really reaching that point through our underwater investigations to realize the massive scale of what went down some 14,000 years ago to 12,000 years ago. We're actually coming out with film studies that we made with Japanese and Australian underwater divers here at our academy, showing the vastness of what we're looking at. It's not one location, but several locations, from southern Japan through Taiwan down to the Philippines, where you're seeing a whole underwater landscape. And we had the opportunity about 10 years ago with Dr. Sandwell at the Scripps Institute and others, Dr. Oppenheimer at Oxford University, to look clearly that there was once a landmass twice the size of India that sunk, and that is the source of many of the mythologies and folk tales of this story of Lemuria,
right.
Or Mu.
Many people want to look for Mu or Atlantis in the middle of the Atlantic or the middle of the Pacific, but in actuality, it seems what we're finding right now is that it was very close in to our own coastal lines now, but it's just submerged. And people have found, I know I grew up in the Miami area, and the whole area of where they found the Bimini Road. Many people have seen that there's actually these blocks set up, and it was just normal. But yes, if the sea level was about 150 meters different, you had a lot more land. You had a lot more people living in these
All right, you
areas.
and I have to take our news break at the bottom of the hour. We'll be back in 4 minutes. www.keysofenoch.org and www.futurescience.com. Our special guests this hour, Dr. J.J. Hurtak and Dr. Desiree Hurtak. When we come back, I'm going to talk to the good doctors about 2012. My name is Rob McConnell. This is the X Zone, and we're coming to you on the Talkstar Radio Network from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. We'll be back after the news right here on Talkstar.
Flu season is here again, and this year, so is the H1N1 flu virus. If you get flu-like symptoms but are otherwise healthy, stay home to avoid infecting others. If you get flu-like symptoms and are pregnant, have underlying health problems, or if your symptoms get worse, contact your health care provider. To find out more, go to fightflu.ca or call 1-800-O-Canada. Knowledge is your best defense. A message from the Public Health Agency of Canada. Flu season is here again, and this year so is the H1N1 flu virus. By taking some simple steps, you can help protect yourself and others. Wash your hands with soap and warm water for at least 20 seconds. Cough and sneeze into your arm, not your hand. Keep common surfaces and items like doorknobs and keyboards disinfected. To find out more, go to fightflu.ca or call 1-800-O-CANADA. Knowledge is your best defense. A message from the Public Health Agency of Canada.
When I'm floating around the universe, I always try to tune in to Rob McConnell.
Hi ho there, Timothy Frog on Sesame Street. When I want to find out what's going on with UFOs or ghosts, I listen to the X Zone with Rob McConnell.
This is Les Corrigan from Target Internet Development. You're listening to Rob McConnell on the X Zone Radio Show.
This is John Hogue, prophecy scholar, and you're listening to Rob McConnell in the X Zone.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
There's a new movie coming out in a couple of weeks. It's entitled 2012. Everybody's looking towards the December 21st, 2012 date. A lot of people think it's going to be the end of the world. I totally disagree with them. I don't think that the Mayan calendar has anything to do with the end of the world as we know it. But I'd like to ask you, JJ and Desiree, what is your opinion of December the 21st, 2012? Are we looking at Armageddon? Are we looking at the end of the world?
Well, you know, Rob, we were just talking about people who lived in the New World over here about 35 to 40, 50,000 years ago. Mm-hmm. The Mayan calendar, which is considered the long count calendar, that's one of three calendars they had, only started in 3114 BC, according to the scholars who were looking at this, or about, we'll say, 5,000 years ago. So technically, it's not talking about the beginning of the world. We wonder why it would be talking about the end of the world. The Mayans certainly thought in big scopes, kind of like the Kali Yugas of the Indians.
90 million years.
Yeah. But they never even said when you go into another age that it's going to be the end of the world. It's kind of like the new year. Like we have December 31st, right, but then we make a celebration for the new one. Now, the other two calendars don't have that kind of limitation. The calendars are called the Hab, which many people have heard about, and the Tzolk'in. The Tzolk'in was actually the one that related to their rituals, and it was more of a divine calendar. So we do think that it's a significant date. It's an interesting date. It might be a transformative date for many people, but certainly not the end of the world.
I happen to have had a background teaching young film experts years ago certain techniques, and Rob Blaylock, who won 2 Emmys for his special effects, showed me years ago how easy it was to create some fantastic scenarios on film, and I'm afraid that that preoccupation with death has overlooked really the fact that we have a fantastic future ahead of us as we find solutions and realize that our ancestors, particularly in Japan and the islands of the Pacific, did survive long enough to give us these wonderful mythologies and stories and folk tales. Mm-hmm. And I do think that by too much preoccupation with the Mayan calendar, we overlook what Mother Nature is telling us as she's kicking back and telling us that we as a scientific community in the West have misused our technologies, our industrial might, and we need really to come up with a whole new strategy for walking on water. And that's the real story. The triggering mechanism, of course, 2012, will make us take a second look at where we're going from this point on, but it's going to be a time of taking a second look, not a end-of-the-world scenario as we see it.
Right, and Dr. Hurtak wrote the foreword to The Idiot's Guide to 2012, which is one of those Idiot Guide series.
By Colin Andrews, was one of the foremost experts looking at crop circles who work with the British army and worked behind the scenes looking at hundreds upon hundreds of these fantastic mathematical forms, which another colleague by the name of Joe Hawkins, a British physicist and mathematician, felt were clearly being made by some off-planetary source of intelligence. So the real story is out there, not to be confounded by the illusions of Hollywood nor the death scenarios, which really take the attention and focus away from young people who realize that they've got so much to live for, and we're living in a fantastic area of possible contact with other worlds of intelligence.
And so our work at the Academy for Future Science is to encourage people to make changes in the future. To me, it's like the millennial bug. If we did nothing, you probably would have had planes dropping out of the sky. But when people can get it together, make changes in their environment, try to change the planet, do something positive, we can get through this in a very positive way of transformation.
Otherwise, we go from Atlantis 1 to Atlantis 2, or Lemuria 1 to Lemuria 2, where we will see, with the rising of the ocean and the rest of the 21st century, the relocation of millions of people out of the islands of the Pacific, and there will be literally a type of flood story that will affect the lives of millions of people. Nonetheless, humanity will continue.
Now, Dr. Hurtak, in your book, The Keys of Enoch, you showed pyramids on Mars. What about Mars? Do you feel that Mars only had life in the past, or will we find life on Mars again, and if so, when?
Well, we're very proud. We are a part of the Mars Society. We're obviously interested in Americans and Russians, and for that matter, Japanese, going back to Mars, because if you remove the water from our surface of Mother Earth, we have roughly the same type of... We're looking at some fantastic evidences now coming out of the areas where both the Spirit and Opportunity rovers have looked in desert. This for our viewers in terms of pictures taken a few years back and what we're seeing now in terms of the tricklings of water.
Well, we do think that 2012 is going to be significant, and especially in terms of Mars, because NASA should be sending back something called the Mars Space Laboratory, MSL, and they're going to get there probably, if everything goes right, we keep our fingers crossed, about 2012. And it is going to be looking for life. As you know, the last probes always said, well, we're only looking for water, we're not looking for life, we didn't put the data up there. We believe you can go back to the Viking. There were 3 experiments for testing for just bacterial life. One came out positive for life, one came out questionable for life, and one came out negative for life. So what did the scientists do? Say, no life. But most scientists will say, hey, what about the one that came out positive? So we think when we now go back, perhaps 2012 will be a turning point for NASA where they have to say, yes, we found bacterial life. Now, that's not as interesting for most of us who already know that there's life out in the universe, but the Russians are looking very closely at Phobos, and they've always looked at Phobos.
This is a small moon, not the smallest, but it is one of the moons around Mars, and it's one of unique interest because back in 1989, the Russians sent a very expensive probe, the Phobos 2 probe, and as it was going into insertion in the Martian system, in an unusual event took place, and I had the privilege when I was in Russia to see some of the film footage. One of the cosmonauts showed me privately of an unusual object that was following the Russian probe, and suddenly the billion-dollar Russian probe was neutralized by some unknown technology. It was startling to see this. At that time, NASA's deep space program was working in concert with the Russians, and the information was being sent back and forth. But we feel privately that there was some form of extrasolar intelligence or life that was there monitoring our missions back and forth. And the new twist to all of this is astronaut Buzz Aldrin, who was the second man on the moon, said this past July 2009 that there's a peculiar object that looks like a monolith on the moon known as Phobos that should be an object of further investigation. Not that he's saying that intelligent life built this monolith, but he's suggesting that the peculiar shape and the peculiarities of the other aspects of how that could have been there on the Phobos surface suggests we take a closer look.
All right,
that unusual object of the shadow that was the last shot taken by the Russian Phobos probe is actually on our website. I know people really enjoy seeing that. Because
all right, let me ask you this question because we're running out of time very fast over here. Do you feel we're going to have to deal with these changes alone, or are there going to be forces in the universe that know what's going on and that they're going to give us a hand, or are we just going to have to handle all this on our own?
Very good question. I do feel that we're part of a cosmic consortium of powers, and that our cosmic friends, our cosmic cultures in space who are beyond the quagmire of history that we're facing as a planetary humanity are going to help us with technology and help us with breakthroughs that we need to stabilize ourselves psychologically, sociologically, and through futurism, we're going to come through this. And I'm saying this positively because of the models that we published years ago in the Keys of Enoch that showed where the Unagudi site would be found in the Western Pacific, where the sites in Indonesia would be located. All of these points on the map have been confirmed, and that's why we're working with experts behind the scenes in various countries.
And you know what we're seeing now? We're not just seeing one extraterrestrial sighting by one person or taking a shot of a spaceship at night, but we're actually seeing fleets of vehicles. This was seen over Guadalajara, it was seen over Lima, Peru, it was seen recently over an area outside of Mexico where you actually see multiple vehicles.
All right, now hold on here. I have to ask you, why are these vehicles coming in massive numbers in countries that, you know, compared to the United States, Canada, and the rest of Europe, are a little behind the times?
Well, maybe because they can get through a lot easier. You never know what technology we have.
Or is it because that these people are easier to sell a ploy to?
No, we actually believe that these are actual sightings, but, you know, who knows what kind of limitations we have. First of all, people don't always look up here, you know, because there's a lot of lights, a lot of stars, a lot of situations going on. But we also might have certain technologies that have already dealt with some of the extraterrestrial realities. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that can be said about why areas like Mexico, with the pyramids, with certain unique relationships, are seeing these unique sightings.
And I would say, if you look carefully at the disclosures being made by the British government, we were with Nick Pope last year when he announced that this would be a long process of downloading information of the hundreds of sightings that have been made. The French government also, and other governments such as Brazil, but we know in semi-industrial countries as well as first world countries that there have also been massive sightings. It's just that all of this information has been considered very sensitive, very appropriate, and could have great sociological effects, and that's for that end the information has been withheld. And so to answer your question, which is an extremely good one, both the have as well as the have-not countries have had more than their share of sightings. The question is, we need a new psychology, we need a new futurism in our scientific community to get people away from the preoccupation with death and certain naive assumptions that this is going to play out according to a given theology or a given type of science. We need a new science, a new philosophy of unification that shows the greater blueprint of evolution that continues and doesn't stop with Mother Earth.
All right, so why don't the ETs just land and get it over with? End the speculation.
I think they have landed and they have shared in critical places.
Where?
If you listen to those who work with Colonel Kozo, excuse me, and things that are coming out of the debate between exopolitics specialists in Washington and other areas of the world, there have been private trade-offs of the information, and I'm not saying that reality happens by giving everything to us on a platter. It takes some 50 to 70 years of orientation to change at least 2 generations, so they have the wherewithal to see what is happening. You cannot throw a bucket of cement back in their face.
And actually, Rob, this is the whole basis behind the Keys of Enoch.
All right, now hold on here. I've just got 2 minutes left, and I'd like to ask this question. Why is it that when it comes to ETs, there's always a conspiracy theory involved, or a theory where society is not ready for contact yet? What happens 20 years from now? No contact yet. Do we just keep on postponing this until people get orientated bored, or when is this going to happen, and why is it taking so darn long?
Well, the message behind the Keys of Enoch, which is, of course, the book Dr. Hurtak put out in the 70s, is that we are in an orientation phase, and it probably won't be another 20 years till major contact is known. People are waking up. The sciences are advancing. Every level is advancing towards the point that we really could make a global contact and not be the primitives in all of this. And I think that's what they really want. They don't want us primitive. They actually want us to be able to reach their status.
And what the Keys have spoken of in terms of a 30-year period, started in 1977, of orientation has led to the disclosure by governments for the first time. The Japanese government has met in private session as of this year. Other governments are meeting privately. This is not necessarily in the news, but they are preparing people for some type of event that may trigger a whole new philosophy of life. And so I would argue that it's taken time for the experts, because of modern civilization, to filter out all the factors.
Dr. Hurtak and Dr. Hurtak, we've just run out of time. I do want to thank you very much for joining us tonight. We'll have to get you back on because we still have so much to talk about. Continued success, and we look forward to the next time you visit us here in the X Zone. www.keysofenoch.org and futurescience.com. More of the X Zone on the other side of this commercial break, as we continue live and around the world on the Talkstar Radio Network from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away.
And the sign said, long-haired freaky people need not apply. So I tucked my hair up under my hat and I went in to ask him why. He said, you look like a fine, upstanding young man. I think you do. So I took off my hat.
Welcome back, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell, and this is the X Zone on the Talkstar Radio Network. Now for the weird news from the X Zone newsroom. Man robbed same bank 4 times? Well, there's an old adage that says, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. In other words, if something is working fine, don't mess with it. Now, that usually doesn't apply to bank robbers, but it seems to me the motto of one bank robber in Tarmac, Florida, though. Investigators are searching for the guy who has now robbed a Bank Atlantic branch 4 times in the last year. It happens so often that on his last robbery, one of the tellers was overheard saying, "He's here again." The suspect is described as heavy-set with dreadlocks. He wears different clothes each time. He always orders tellers to fill a plastic bag with cash, then casually walks out. Hey, after maybe, say, the first 3 times, do you think that it might be a good idea to have hired an armed guard to hang around during these banking hours? Now, doesn't that make sense? Anyway, here's another story of crime. I stole from a 9-year-old. Shame, shame on 56-year-old Evelyn Border and her 35-year-old daughter, Tina. They became willing victims of a modern-day stockade after agreeing to stand outside the Bedford, Pennsylvania courthouse holding signs that read, "I stole from a 9-year-old girl on her birthday." Don't steal or this could happen to you. The strange sentence was part of a plea bargain to keep mom and daughter duo out of jail. Instead, they got probation. They apparently swiped a gift card that a 9-year-old girl was sent, that the 9-year-old girl had set on a shelf while a Walmart employee helped her. The girl's mother planned to drive by the courthouse to teach her daughter the importance of obeying the law. And let's be honest, Exo Nation, probably so that they could just laugh and laugh and laugh. I know I certainly would. And finally, no more shutouts to prisoners. Try not to end up at the Van Buren County Jail in Paw Paw, Michigan. One section of the jail is 100 years old and has no air conditioning. As a result, its barred windows are open during the warm weather. as the wing stands only a few feet away from the sidewalk, separated by a tall chain-link fence crowned by spirals of wire, razor wire that is. For years, friends and loved ones of the inmates have been known to stand outside the jail and shout out to them. Sometimes they hold entire conversations together, but not anymore. A new Pawpaw law, yeah, that's fun to say, Pawpaw law, makes giving your favorite inmate a shout out from the sidewalk illegal. Do it and you can end up having lots of conversations with them from inside the jail for 90 days. That's it from the X-Zone Newsroom. Now, when we come back, on the other side of this commercial break, E.P. Grandin is going to be my guest. We're going to be talking about the Americas 2012. We're also going to be discussing Atlantis and much more. My name is Rob McConnell, and this is the X-Zone, a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until 2 a.m. Eastern. And then the show is repeated in its entirety from 2 a.m. until 6 a.m. I'll be back with more X-Zone on the other side of this commercial break with the news. As always, we continue live and around the world from our studios here in beautiful Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Our website's www.xzoneradio.com, xzonetv.com, and you can call us here at our X-Zone studios during regular business hours at 1-800-610-7035. Don't go away. We'll be back after this news break at 6.5 minutes past.